I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad. Mine is that our first grade teacher would lay us over her lap on our birthday and spank us for however many years we were turning. And we loved it. I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
My mom thought that it was a good idea to leave me at 10 and a half home alone every day from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. with a newborn and my 5-year-old brother. So I'm 10 and a half watching my 5-year-old and a newborn every day by myself. Just doesn't seem right, especially when you see pictures like this and realize how young I actually am. Yep, there's me. I'm a child. I'm a child taking care of a baby by myself every day.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
So when I was in primary school, I was about 9 years old, my teacher used to put the tables together and I would stand on the tables and I would perform for the rest of my class. And I used to always perform Lady Marmalade and I would do every verse, including Little Kim's rap. So I'd be 9 years old, performing for a bunch of other 9-year-olds, spanking my own bottom whilst rapping along to the lyrics, "We're independent women, some mistake us for whores, but why spend mine when I can spend yours?" And the teacher would just be at the back of the room clapping along like, "Oh, this is really appropriate." And the funny thing is, I thought that's how you made friends, by performing, because no one in primary school even knew what gay was. And on the first day of high school, I thought, I'm really struggling to make friends, so I stood up and sang Lady Marmalade. Wouldn't recommend that in high school.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
Y'all, my gangsta ass mom and dad, they used to have parties at our house, and I don't know why the fuck they let me be security guard. Bitch, I thought I was the shit with my little metal detector, because if you from the hood, you just don't trust nobody. Like, bitch, we checking everybody coming in this goddamn bar, because it's our house, you know, the fuck. So anyways, I sure was like, you know, beep beep, spread them, beep, bitch. I was doing everything. I had my little hat, I was hustling pool games, who would win, who wouldn't, you know what I mean? It was crazy. I would dance for everybody, the little Daddy Yankee, that I got so lean. Bitch, it was so ghetto. Like, I loved it. I would go to school and be like, "What'd you do this weekend?" I'd be like, "I was security guard at my mom's party." The fuck, what'd you do? But, you know, my mom and dad don't get down like that. I mean, don't tempt them. You know, we go to church every Sunday now, but, you know, don't get it twisted.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
I grew up in a white affluent neighborhood, but the flat I lived in with my mum was borderline squalid. Like, our bathtub was in the kitchen. I'm not joking. Basically, we were the only poors of the neighborhood. And I was the only, you know, one of my classmates and one of my best friends happened to live right across the street from me. And one day, his parents invited all of his friends and classmates for his birthday. All of his friends except me, who lived right across the street and could see everyone getting into his place. So I was at my balcony waving at all my friends getting one by one into my other friend's place. They'd be like, "Hey, are you coming down?" And, well, no, I wasn't invited. See you tomorrow at school. My mum, bless her, tried her best to shield me from the realization of what was actually happening. So she took me out camping that weekend and convinced me that I would be the one that all my classmates envy for the weekend I had.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
Between the ages of me being 12 and 14, every single weekend, my mother would get me a hotel room, and she would get one across the hall. I wouldn't bother her or anything. She wouldn't bother me. And she would give me some money. I go shopping, call it a day, blah, 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 so forth. And so fast forward, my mother and my father break up. She gets a new man, and I remember this man because I seen him one day when she was dropping me off at the hotel one day. And come to find out that whole time that she was taking me out every weekend, it was just an excuse so that she could get away from my dad and cheat on him with my current stepdad. And all the money that I was getting was from him.
from your childhood that you thought was okay but now realize is really, really bad?
Oh my god, I was waiting for this one. Okay, so when I was younger, every time I lied, my parents would punish me by eating like a chile. It started off with like hot sauce and upgrade to a jalapeno and then upgrade to something else. Like my point is that every time I lied, it got worse and worse. So in the 6th grade, I had a little boyfriend and I lied to my parents about it. They got really mad and well, I got punished. So my punishment was I had to eat an habanero chile, one of the hottest chiles out there, drenched in tapatio, by the way. I wasn't able to drink any water. Keep in mind, I was like 11. And yeah, I was crying because it hurt so much and I was on fire. And my babas, my jewels started dripping down everywhere. I would smear them up like that, would rub my eye. My spit was spicy and my whole face and everything was burning. I was screaming, I was crying, and my parents were yelling at me to shut up and I couldn't shut up. Went into a whole panic attack. I don't have time to finish. Oh!
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay but now realize is really, really bad.
So when I was a kid, we would play this game where one kid would have a ball and everybody else would try and tackle that kid and get the ball from him and basically just like beat him up and so that they could get the ball and then, or whatever it was, and survive as long as they could with that ball. And it was an awesome game. I loved it. And then a couple years later, I suggested we play this game. And, well, people weren't too fond of the name. And that is when I learned that, well, it was called Smear the Queer. So, yeah.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay but now realize is really, really bad.
When I was in elementary school, we had this one lunch lady. Her name was Miss Kathy. I feel like that was every lunch lady's name. She was always the one to tell us to quiet down. She was really fucking scary. And to be honest, she probably hated children. However, there were days that she was nice and she would come sit at your table. Not because she liked you, because she wanted some of your food. She would sit and share your snack with you whether you wanted to or not. Also, every day that we went outside for lunch for recess, we would play dodgeball. And it was boys versus girls, which honestly seems very horrible now that I think of it. But Miss Kathy would always play on the girls' side, and she would pelt the fuck out of us boys. And not with a soft dodgeball, with one of those rubber fucking balls you use for kickball. She would walk up to the line and bash a kid in the fucking face. There was no remorse. And for some reason, we loved it. We wanted her to play with us every day and bash us in the face.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay but now realize is really, really bad.
Oh, I've been waiting for this one. I'm a Mennonite girl, and I was born and raised in a very strict, controlling, sexist, religious household. I am the second oldest out of 8 children, and we were all raised to believe that it was our job to pay our parents back for raising us, and that it was our fault that they had so much debt. So every single year, since I was 7 years old, they made us work seasonal jobs, and they would take 90% of the income we made. We could only keep 10%. And that was to help them pay their bills and for us to pay them back because we're such a burden. They would also give us quotas, so we had to make a certain amount of money each day doing field work. And if we didn't meet these expectations, we would get whipped with a belt after we got home from work that day, just to teach us a lesson, to make us work harder.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay but now realize is really, really bad.
Throughout my childhood, my dad used to sleep until noon, 1, 2, sometimes even 3 on the weekends. And when I would ask him to get up earlier or ask him why he slept so long, he would say, "This is what I earned working all week. This is what I want to do with my free time." My brother and I followed suit and developed this same pattern. And I now realize that this was not normal. This was a coping mechanism. This was a depression symptom. This was a trauma response. My dad's a lot happier now, and he doesn't sleep in anymore to avoid his life. I still struggle with oversleeping as a coping mechanism and fatigue as a symptom of depression. But I recognize now that I want to be awake for my life.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay but now realize is really, really bad.
This isn't really from my childhood, but it kind of is because it went on for a couple of years. But anyways, when I was in high school, I would wake up every morning and I'd be doing my hair and I'd be curling my hair for my crush, and then out of nowhere I'd go and I'd burn my neck, my face, my legs, my arms. I'd drop curling iron on my legs. And we went to a couple doctors. I told mom about it. No one really did anything about it. Kind of said it was normal. So I went like this for a couple of years. I actually have a super high pain tolerance because of it, because I was constantly burning myself all the fucking time. I would drop shit in the mornings. This was just my life. I was twitchy. That was it. And then finally one day I went to a church retreat. We woke up at 5 a.m. and I ended up having a seizure. No one knew why. So my mom took me to a couple of specialists. And then one specialist finally connected 2 and 2 together and realized that my twitchiness was in line with my seizures, and find out that I have juvenile myoclonic epilepsy and that it was caused from lack of sleep. So
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
So whenever we were sick, my grandmother used to rub Vicks all over our chest and put a towel over us, and it would go up our nose. And so 17 years ago, when my mom first got diagnosed with lung cancer, the pulmonologist said at first he thought it was just Vicks vapor rub scarring of your lungs, because I guess the camphor and the eucalyptus oil is not safe for your nasal cavities. How many of y'all had grandmothers or moms that made you put that crap up your nose? Yikes.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
I was a super avid reader as a kid. Well, I still am. But as a kid, I read well above grade level. And I found this book at a yard sale. It had a kind of a creepy cover, and my mom said I could read it. And it was about these kids who their dad dies and their mom takes them to go live with their grandparents. But the thing was that the grandfather didn't know they existed. So they had to be kept a secret until she could tell the grandpa that they existed. And then they would get to live in this big mansion, and they would have all this land to play on, and it was going to be a fantastic life for them. It was 2 brothers and 2 sisters. So they sneak there in the middle of the night, and they get ushered up to the attic where they have to hide for just a few days. But the attic was really cool and set up really fun, and they were going to make it an adventure for their little brother and their little sister. And it was all going to be great. It was all going to be great. V.C. Andrews.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
Yeah, this one's really bad. Sorry, I'm at the Chick-fil-A drive-thru.
The waffle fries.
When I was 13 or 14, if we missed the school bus, we would have to take a taxi because our parents couldn't leave work and drive us to school. It was all fine and well, except for there was this one taxi driver in particular that I always had weird experiences with. At the time, I didn't think they were weird. I thought they were funny. Mind you, this taxi driver was 60 years old. And one time he gave me the birds and the bees talk, but wouldn't let me leave until he finished. We were at school and he put the child lock on so I couldn't get out of the car. As much Chick-fil-A sauce as possible. I never quoted it on my phone because I was like, haha, this is so funny. When I think back on it, I'm like, that was not correct.
I want to know something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
When I was 9 and walking around the streets like a little hooligan, unsupervised, this drunk man approached me, and I didn't know what a drunk adult looked like, so I just thought, fun, a wonky guy. And then he was like, do you want this half-eaten stale bag of chips? And I went, of course, I'm 9. And then he was like, do you also want to come inside my house? And I said, yes, I do want to do that with you. And then he was like, do you want to go upstairs? And I was like, I feel like at this point I should ask my mum. I feel like I've heard about situations like this. And he was like, oh, I'll come with you. And I was like, oh, perfect, she'll love that. So I bring home this drunk man into the house, and I'm like, here you go. My mum's like, what the fuck are you doing? She tells me to go to my room, but I don't want to do that. And so he picks me up, and because he's drunk, he slams me into the bookshelf. Because he falls over. She tells him to get the fuck out. And I was like, what a quirky, fun guy. Looking back, he was a pedophile.
Something from your childhood that you thought was okay, but now realize is really, really bad.
I have this doll that I bought at a flea market when I was 4 years old. This doll is the type that flips over to reveal another doll underneath. But I can't show you because it is racist. Did I know that at 4 years old? No. Did my parents know that? Yeah. They still let me buy it because all I saw were 2 beautiful dolls. I absolutely loved this doll. Both sides of it. For my entire childhood. My parents let me take this out of the house. And of course they explained to me, hey, don't flip it over because It's not good. How they explain that to a 4-year-old, I have no idea. I just remember I wasn't supposed to show anybody the other side. Just to imagine that she was a princess that could shapeshift. You know, just change her appearance. I used to sleep with it every night, and I'd flip it over every day so that a different side of the doll could enjoy being on the bed. I love her so much, and I see her years later, and when I pull her out of the box, I'm like, oh my fucking god, what?